When inmates save officers' lives, don't look at me like that. This is true prison stories. We tell the good stories, the bad stories, and the ugly stories. If we didn't tell all the stories about prisons and jails, how could it be true prison stories? We're not a one-sided channel. We try to stay right down the middle and tell it like it is. Thanks for watching, everybody. Gary York, True Prison Stories. Listen, folks, we have inmates out there that will save your life. Now, that's a fact. Not all inmates are going to sit back and laugh when an officer's in trouble. I'll give you a couple of case in points here, 3 examples, and then we'll discuss what happens when inmates save an officer's life. Do they get any credit for it? Do they get any time taken off their sentence? It all depends, folks. And I can tell you right now, case in point number 1, there was a detention deputy. All the inmates were locked down in the pod, and he began having sweating and looking bad, and the inmates noticed that. And then he fell to the floor, sort of semi-unconscious. All the inmates in the pod were banging as loud as they could on the cell. Help, help, help the officer, help the deputy, help the deputy, help the deputy. It is believed that their yelling and their screaming got the officer alert enough to look up, and he saw cell 617, and these inmates are going berserk. He was able to reach up and pop their cell door. And these inmates came and ran to his aid. And they used his radio to call for help. And I'm showing how they called in and what they said when they called in. They saved this officer's life. They didn't run over there and push on his chest with their foot to watch him die. They saved his life. And the whole pod was trying to save his life. So, I don't know. That tells me a few things. I would hope any officer that would have been sitting in that chair would have been saved. But this officer sounds like he was firm, fair, and consistent. Inmates respect that the most. They really don't respect a weak officer, even though they take advantage of them to gain things. And they don't like a rogue officer. And firm, fair, and consistent is what we teach. And I think inmates respect that the most when you do your job the right way. Kudos to those inmates. Thank you for saving that officer's life. There was another incident where 6 inmates were working on an outside squad with an officer in a cemetery. Very, very hot day. And the officer had some issues from 10 years ago with some type of surgery. And I guess the heat got to the officer. Well, it did, and he passed out. Now, here's 6 inmates with tools in a cemetery looking around. Now, we've had inmates escape from work squads before. It's not worth it, though, because if you're on a work squad, you're at a custody level where you should be pretty close to getting out anyway. But we have had them run off. What did these inmates do? They ran to the officer's aid. One of the inmates got his cell phone. No, he didn't use the cell phone to call for a pickup to help escape. He didn't use it to call for anything malicious. He called 911, and they saved the officer's life. There was another incident. Female inmates, SNU, Special Needs Unit. Female inmate in the shower sees an officer in trouble from other SNU inmates. For some reason, the officer's station was not in view of that officer. And that officer was not able to call for help. She runs out of the shower and runs to the officer station and gets that officer help. Help arrives. Everything turns out okay. Even in the SNU unit, folks, humanism kicks in. Human instinct kicks in to a lot of inmates. I know there's some inmates that wouldn't do this. I know that. It's the same with all aspects of the world, with all jobs. Some doctors wouldn't do this. Some nurses wouldn't do it. You know, it doesn't matter what your occupation is or who you are. But inside every human, there is a heart, and instinct kicks in, whether they're a SNU inmate or a regular open population inmate. It kicks in and they take action. Okay? So, all these inmates that I just described saved somebody's life, saved somebody from danger. And this is just 3 that I came up real quick with. One was here that I knew about, and the other 2 in Georgia up above us here in Florida. But it happens all over the country. It comes out in the news when inmates save lives. While I'm on that topic, I wish the news would print more also about officers saving inmates' lives. That's a whole nother category, a whole nother video, but many inmates' lives are saved by officers as well. We don't see that in the paper, though, as much in the media. Now, I just wanted to throw that in for good measure because it is the truth. But I do want to give some recognition to these inmates that saved lives, and so did the wardens and sheriffs on these 3 incidents. They wanted to give recognition to the inmates, and the inmates got some gain time to help them get out of jail earlier in the other 2 incidences. Wardens have the power, sheriffs have the power to reward inmates who save lives. It can be done, and it has been done, and I think it should be done. If inmates save somebody's life, they should be rewarded. For those of you out there who are saying no inmate should be rewarded, well, I hope you never have to have your life saved by an inmate. Because if you do, and an inmate saves your life, I would like to see what you have to say then. I would hope you would be saying thank you, and I'm so grateful that that inmate was there to save my life. Hey, it goes both ways, folks, in this world. Okay? So, this story needed to be told. We have to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly on this channel. And this was a good story. I'll go ahead and do one later on officers saving the lives of inmates. We need to get some good stories out there, folks. We have enough of the bad and the ugly. Let's get the good out there. Thank you, everyone, for watching Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.